Really short. So yeah. Welcome to Eugene. This morning I want to focus on voter service. This is my home league. I hope you all had a good drive to get here. Safe travels. I want to start this morning by talking about our January special election that's underway. And then let's talk about voter service volunteers, what local leagues will be doing, what the state league will be doing, what we need to pull off this big job. We have about 20 minutes and then a little extra time for questions, so please do be thinking of questions you might have that will help you understand or help you to have the talking points you need to bring to your members or prospective members to get them included. First off, we will have a January 23rd special election. Ballot Measure 101 will be the only thing on this ballot. It calls for a public vote on parts of House Bill 2391, a healthcare funding bill. The legislature worked hard on this with extensive stakeholder participation and negotiation that included health insurance people, hospital lobbyists, and the bill passed with negotiation. But it inspired a referendum. Referenda are also known as repeal referenda. And so with the vote of the people, this funding could be revoked. You need to know that the League will address this in two separate ways. Next slide. We will look at this carefully and emphatically in separate ways in voter service and in advocacy. As with our old education fund voter service, we will analyze and report without taking sides, just the facts and some analysis. Our action side will take a position which we will not mention or discuss in voter service. Ellis could probably talk about that. Special election voter turnout is often lower. We, voter service, will have our work cut out for us. So I hope you're taking notes. This is the time to say, if you plan events for the special election and for your regular primary and general election seasons, please send the information for our calendar. We'll put it on our website. People will see it when they put in their address to see what's on their ballot. And we can post them. So or they can go into our voter's guide content for print if you get them in soon enough. Next slide. Whoops. Well, no. Oh, practice is good, right? Okay, so this ballot measure page, this page is from a 2014 voter's guide. We have two ballot measure researchers who are new, who volunteered to work on Ballot Measure 101. We will not print a voter's guide for this December, but let's walk through what is listed in our voter's guides, and then we will look at a different slide for the Measure 101 information. This measure from 2014 is number 90. You can see the number in the top oval, and then right below that in tiny print is the nickname. This one was the top two primary. We will list the probable impact of a yes or no vote. And then legislative background, you can see sort of in the middle of those little three paragraphs. On the right-hand side of the page, the reference is the official ballot title. Is it an initiative, a referral, or a referendum? If you don't know the difference, pick up one of our Think Before You Ink flyers that are out at the registration table. We republished those this summer after revising them, and they're very helpful. Those are available in Spanish, and all of our local leagues ordered some. But if you personally haven't seen one, you just need to review it, please pick one up. The financial impact is up just to the right of the number 90. The proposal and summary recaps principal provisions and major changes to existing law and the likely or unintended changes that might happen as a result of this vote if the measure passes. And then finally, what supporters say and what opponents say. We research and verify our statements with them. Next, please. Now let's look at my sketch for Ballot Measure 101, and you can see the value of formatting. This was just done yesterday, and it's kind of hard to read. I'm sorry about that. The measure number 101 was certified from the referendum number 301. The other related numbers are House Bill 2391 that it came from, and Senate Bill 229 that it affects. Our league working nickname for this will be Healthcare Assessment. The sponsor's campaign name is Stop Healthcare Taxes. You need to know, Legislative Counsel has said that using the word tax relating to House Bill 2391 is not accurate. It should be called an assessment. And when you see this in the press or when people are talking about it, it is not properly called a tax. It is an assessment. The official ballot title, and I put it in here, it's kind of hard to read, but that's okay. It's long, but I think it's informative, so I'm going to read it. Provides funds currently budgeted to pay for health care for low-income individuals and families, for stabilizing health insurance premiums, using temporary assessments on insurance companies, some hospitals, and other providers of health insurance or health care coverage. Thanks for listening. There's no test at the end. Debbie.
Do you want to take questions now or later?
Actually, I think we're kind of flexible. I have a lot to get through, but if you have a pressing question, this is the hot iron in the fire. So.
Pressing enough. I'm Debbie Kane from Portland. Can you, because people will ask us, so why is this not a tax? Why is it an assessment? What's the difference? What is it?
Okay,
If
so.
you're on that title right now, I think it would be really helpful. If you'd rather describe it later.
I was actually kind of hoping that Karen Nibbler would be here because it's her portfolio. Do you want to speak to that?
So there was a pre-existing assessment on hospitals already that was called an assessment, and it was for the purpose of spreading the load for indigent care, especially in the emergency rooms. And so what the legislature in its wisdom did was take that assessment and expand it for this purpose of funding Medicaid in the state, and then matching the federal funds that are also coming from the federal government. So that's why it's called an assessment, not a tax. There is a technical definition of a tax, and I don't have that right off the top of my head, but it has to do with direct taxation for citizens, I think, instead of entities.
Thank you.
So really quickly, the other part and the reason it's an assessment is that they actually will get, in most cases, they will get this money back. So it's a matter of gathering all of this, assessing all of this money together, and then it turns around and the beneficiaries of this tax are low-income Oregonians, but it relates to the hospitals that they go to and the coordinated care organizations that they go to and whatever. So the whole reason for doing the assessment is to make sure that we have the matching dollars to get, and Becky will tell you more about how much money Oregon will get once we assess these providers for what they're offering.
From the federal government.
Yes.
Pat.
Is it the case that it's only the increase in the assessment that's the subject of the referendum, or is the whole amount subject to the referendum?
The only parts.
So I think the answer to your question is that House Bill 2391 has a number of components, and this measure only addresses a few of them. And we do have ballot measure researchers working on this, and I'm sharing the joy. I don't have all the answers.
So it's affecting just the funding parts of the bill, the assessments.
I do want to say,
Aside all the requirements that money be spent on various things in the state, it's actually a budget
I'll wait for more information.
Okay. So this is a referendum, informally known as a repeal referendum, to repeal the legislation that did pass. From the Secretary of State's press release last week, of the 84,000 some signatures submitted, a little over 70,000 or 85% were deemed valid, which exceeds the required number of over 58,000. The Joint Interim Committee has released their probable impact statements of yes and no votes and their proposal summaries. They're in my appendix if you want to see them, or if you want to read them, have me read them later. Let's see. I do want to read a summary of the financial impact statement on this, also quoting from Legislative Counsel. If the measure is defeated, there will be a reduction of $210 million to $320 million in state revenue, resulting in a possible reduction of $630 to $960 million or more in federal matching funds. These amounts are the pass-through that Peggy was talking about. The total revenue reduction to the 2017 to 2019 state budget may be $840 million to $1.3 billion or more. So to finish this part, our researchers are working on legislative background, and they will be collecting what supporters and opponents say. They keep their notes for our speakers kit. We've already had a couple of leagues ask for speakers kit information, and we will have it coming soon. I don't know how soon yet. So that's it for our special election. Yes, Margaret.
I think, Margaret Knoll from Portland, I think one of the important things to know is that I believe we are probably advocating a yes vote, right? And the reason we're advocating a yes vote is because that verifies what the legislature did. And it seems backwards, because this is a referendum, not a referral, so you don't want to really repeal.
That's right.
And it's very confusing.
Referendum questions are always phrased positively, and in this case, it's affirming the legislature's passage. Yeah.
And Jenna?
Wayne County, you said that you will give reasons, the impact if it passes. Do you also give the impact if it fails?
That will be included in the speaker's kit information.
Because that kind of speaks to kind of the reverse way of voting.
We will have our voter service education cut out for us. Okay, next slide. Okay, now I want to talk about our other voter service functions and volunteer needs. The vast majority of our work is done by volunteers. I would actually like to stop and have our one paid staff member stand up and take a hand. Sarah, thank you for your help. As I'm sure you know, your work will influence many people, and we are relying on you. Remember these jobs we're talking about, and think about who your good volunteers are. I sponsored my daughter's membership last year, and when renewal time came up a few weeks ago, I asked her about it, and she said, I don't know what I'm getting out of this. I wanted to join because of the 2016 elections, but am I really helping now? So let's think about what we're doing and how our members can help. So, to do what? When you think of League Voter Service, what do you think of? And don't you just hate it when PowerPoint people read the slide to you? I don't know if you can see this in the back. Can you see the list? Oh, good, okay. Most of our local leagues have a voter service rep already. If you don't, I recommend that you think about it, work on finding somebody. It's a vital league service. central to our mission. And I would like to, the standing or past or incoming voter service reps here in the room to stand up. I'm talking about you. Local league voter service reps. Oh, and one more. We need to take a picture together this year. Kelly, did you hear? I want to take a picture like that one from 2015 for this year.
Okay.
Those of you who are here, find me at lunchtime.
I brought a brush.
Okay, so those of you who are local league presidents, think about, have you got this covered? Do you not need any help? I can see Pat. I saw that. Oh, do we need any help? Do we need any help? The voter service rep must be fully comfortable online. Cell phones, emails. Midterm elections are often not as busy as presidential years. Not 2018. This will be a big election year for us. We've got the gubernatorial. Yesterday, Willamette Week reported that Senators Devlin and Ferrioli will be named to a council. Big shakeup for senior Senate composition. Interesting how this will play out. So we're already getting ready for the regular primary and general election for 2018. We're updating our voter service toolbox full of documents, sending out voter service news about every week already. Let's plan now for our work together. Your voter service reps should be leading a team of volunteers. Okay, I hope you can see these titles. When I went through this with my daughters, they said, well, so how much time, Mom? Like, what are we getting in for if we sign up for this? So I'm making a guess. Your members may share these jobs, but you should know who is available to cover these. Sorry. Speakers Bureau, plan now for league publicity. Set a strategy for your speakers. Your community groups will need advance time, just like we in the league do, to set their programs and schedule their meetings. Here are some examples. City Club, Rotary, your faith communities, senior centers, schools. Don't forget social media. I was interested to see that this measure, Ballot Measure 101, sponsors have already spent $3,500 on Facebook ads. We don't want to be a tree falling in the forest that nobody hears. The ballot measure work, the research is too intense not to share it, too helpful. Events coordinator. Kaylee, this is for you. I bet you'd like one, and you have to ask. Lorraine noticed, she said, oh, you asked, good job. We have a debate handbook, National and Oregon Debate League policies, an event planner, templates for candidate invitations and press releases. They're all in our voter service toolbox. Mock elections, I think that Tony and Ann, it's a long ways to drive from Hermiston. They have not stopped working on our curriculum. Distribution lists, networking with the Oregon Department of Education and other partners for our mock election. Civics Ed is an important part of our mock elections, yet this doesn't mean that our volunteers teach classes. So when you see the volunteer sign-up sheet, if you're interested in this, sign up for more information. So voter registration is on our list, over on the Anytime Helps. Yes, we have Motor Voter in Oregon, but not everybody remembers to update their registration if they change their name or if they move. understand that Oregon State assigns a mailbox number to incoming students, and they retain that address for the duration of their time at the school, even if they change dorm rooms, which is really cool. I don't know if other schools do that. So that's another thing we can work on. GOTV, get out the vote. How is our voter turnout? Well, it could be better. We can work on this. Election observers teams. I don't know how many leagues have run these. I was interested to hear that county clerks have asked for league election observers teams, and if you're interested, ask me about this. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about state level volunteers. We have managers and individual volunteers. When I think about the managers, I think about shepherds. In addition to the local volunteers, we need state level help.
Can we have music?
Turn around.
Thank you. So, any Superpower League members will do, and the work can be done from home. These jobs have short, tight timelines with deadlines during campaign season. We need organizers to help teams stay on track, and we need individuals for all the little pieces. I've included time guesstimates, and they can vary, especially if you're efficient. Next. Vote 411 volunteer coordinator for a team to contact county elections. I'm guessing 6 hours a week. Ballot measure researcher coordinator. We need somebody to pair new volunteers with experienced volunteers, to call them and find out, okay, which measure are you interested in working on, to keep the contact lists organized. I'm guessing maybe thinking expansively 5 hours to set this up, probably a lot less, and maybe an hour a week after that. Voters Guide distribution manager. The League of Women Voters of Oregon will produce and will pay for printed voters guides in 2018 for the primary and for the election, for the general, in English and in Spanish.
But you need to be on a different slide. Are you on the
I
right
think you're on the wrong slide.
Oh, we are on the wrong slide.
Go back one. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and so that last part, yeah, thanks. Let's see, where am I? So we need a print manager to manage local league orders, coordinate with the printer, make sure you have a street address for delivery, and so on and so on. This involves deadlines. Most of these do. Voters Guide proofing. This is a particular example of a short sprint job. As soon as those things come out, we need proofreaders to go through our protocol for proofreading. Oh my Lord, last year we had the wrong candidate statement for one of them, which is fine online, you just fix it. Print can be a problem, and everyone who's done this has assured me it happens every time. I could use some help with this one, especially. Okay, Speakers Bureau coordinator. Help the speakers to share news, like, I got an audience question on Tuesday, and you all should know about this so you're ready for it. Facilitate communication between the speakers. I'm guessing 10 hours to set up, it's probably a lot less, and then a little bit weekly. State liaison. This is what I was talking to Kaylee about. We coordinate at the state level for debates and forums so that the gubernatorials or the congressionals will say, well, okay, I'm willing to do one in Medford, one in Eugene, one in Portland, maybe some other places, And we'll coordinate, because it's hard to get them to accept invitations because they don't want to share a stage with their opponents. It's new media. It's an interesting phenomenon. So let's think about your new members. Are you good at Excel? You don't need to be. Just what?
Saying he is.
Oh, good, good. You need to be. So we need solid, utterly committed, reliable volunteers. Remember, we now welcome younger members. Reach out and ask your friends who they know who might be interested in helping with these skills. We rely on people for these. So there's the Vote 411 data collection team. Can they phone, email, copy and paste into Excel? We scour city and county websites for candidates and ballot measures for both the primary and the general. Information for those two is different because they're running against different opponents, so they have different statements often. You're shaking your head, Derek, you know this, yeah. The bigger counties are less work because they're more organized and they're more user-friendly. They tend to be more technologically advanced. The county lists have been balanced for 6 volunteers. For a cooperative team, I'm guessing 10 hours each. Ballot measure researchers are among Oregon's best informed experts on these topics. Your work will influence many people and we'll be counting on you. We pair new and experienced researchers with a handbook and linked information source lists. Our ballot measure researchers monitor developments up to election day to keep our speakers informed. I'm guessing 20 hours, maybe less, not less. Margaret's done many of them for us. 20 hours, at least. Voter's Guide production. Which slide is that? Okay. We need Voter's Guide volunteers for background production work, including the Vote 411 database and voter resources website work. I'm guessing 10 hours each for the primary and another 10 hours for the general for each of our 6 Voter's Guide versions. Our Voter's Guides are each formatted differently. Our standard in English and Spanish is distributed, printed around the state. Our large print and studio read audio script with Oregonians reading it are for registered state library, talking books and Braille services clients and our online users. We work to have our website mobile friendly and to be audio reader compatible. We can use experienced help for our video Voter's Guide. Okay, number 9. I hope I got the numbering right. Okay, this is where you get to say, oh, wow, that's a Gantt chart. I'd like to talk about our timeline. There is no way around the time crunch we see every election, starting with ballot measure certification the first week of August, 30 days after signature verification, or the signature submission deadline. They submit the signatures. In 2016, they did help us out on July 8th with signatures received summary, so we could get kind of a glimpse of, oh yeah, this one's gonna fly, we better start researching it now. These dates are set by statute. So we have candidate filing, which in 2016 was the 30th of August, it'll be within a day or so, 70 days before the election. This is really intense. This is showtime, crunch time, all hands on deck time. It's great for volunteers to dive in. If they know they've got this calendar slot, it's short, it's intense. This is when we want those people. This is what we're getting ready for now. Well in advance, we can see it coming, so let's get ready. We've got ballot measure research. This can start before certification with early release of their signature reports. We include pro and con campaign input, and we allow time for them to review what we're going to print. Research is edited by our experienced League Edits Committee. We covered 350 plus local ballot measures all around the state in 2016. In 2016, the majority of those were marijuana measures from all around the state. They covered whether or not we should allow growing, processing, selling, taxing. They were all separate measures, and each county addressed them in their own way. The candidate filing deadline, okay, see that right there? It's not a 29-day period. Filing is already open for the primary. We have 124 candidates listed, I checked this morning, at the state level. 124, but we can't start our 411's work early. We don't start until the candidate filing deadline. It's a single day, but if I put that on my chart, you wouldn't see it. So it's a day, August 30th. In 2016, we covered 1,170 candidates around Oregon from all 36 counties, some 230 cities, and about 1,000 special districts. If we didn't list candidates, maybe it's because they didn't file a public email address. So after we get that information, we enter it into the 411 database. We assemble it, organize it into geospatial districting. Some of those are overlapping regions. We format it into different versions. It has to be translated for Spanish into the audio script differently so it can be read in the studio, and into a large print format for talking books and Braille production. Web-friendly formatting is a separate step. Printing preparation and plate layout are also separate steps. Those are time-consuming and expensive. We pay for those. They have separate proofreading for English and Spanish. Print scheduling involves advanced scheduling, sometimes juggling around other customer needs and flexibility to hold the English copies so that they can be mailed out to you with the Spanish copies, which have a lag for translation and editing time. And we also have a little lag sometimes for inserting the state guide into the Multnomah guide and then shipping the Multnomah English and Spanish. This all happens to be coordinated so that these can arrive by the ballot mailing time. And in 2016, that was like October 19th, and then our election day in 2018 is November 8th. Next. So I wanted to show you this. In 2012, we had about 170, 200 and some candidates and 170 ballot measures. But as you can see, we've grown incredibly in the volume of work that we include, the volume of candidates. We went through the Blue Book. We included every small unincorporated area, and our Vote 411 voter resources hits on our website. We had about 29,000 for the May 2016 primary. We are going gangbusters. We want to make this work. We are looking at hiring temporary staff for the office for the less technical everyday work, so that Sarah can take on some of the very technical data entry website work. We have to give technical support to our candidates who need help getting their information in or posting their photographs. You can see there are lots of ways that you can help. Sarah will do part of this for us, as she's perhaps juggling a new family member at that time. So please, we're counting on you too for your help. Next slide, please. So we are mentors. We want to welcome our new members and people who would like to join just to help us. I hope you have a sense of how intense this work is. Please think about the tasks you can offer our new members who want to help. They can shepherd a team, but not do that team's actual work, just be sure they're on track. They can work as part of a team, choose the part that interests you. Or they can just choose pieces out of the menu, little pieces that they're interested in. We want to make this work and use our good volunteers. When people thank you for the League Voters Guide, please tell them thank you for reading them and share them with other people and tell people they're online too. We sure could use more help. More hands make light work. So many people are more aware of how important voting is now. Voting matters. We want voter service volunteers now to allow training and orientation in advance to use our voter service toolbox. In your packet, you will find a description of some of the things we've talked about today, including a sign-up sheet for you to take home to your leagues. And in our voter service toolbox, you'll find many of these documents. Take them home and use them to engage your members to sign up. I'll take questions. You can go get some coffee and come back and ask me questions.
So Becky, really quickly, so you were really focusing on voter service, and it's really important for the league to, and for new members in particular, to understand that two-hat issue. So most of your whole conversation was just saying, these are the things that we do to make sure that we have educated voters in Oregon. Separately, in a separate conversation, there will be a conversation about advocacy and where the league stands, for instance, on the January election and in the future. But we are very, very, we find that really, really important to make sure that we're careful in wearing those two hats separately, right?
That's absolutely right, and it's tricky. It's important for people to, and difficult for people to understand. It's important for our tax status that we are a 501c3, part of which can be advocacy. The board met last Friday, we took a vote, and we did agree to take a position. I work with the action team. I also do voter service. I naively thought that the calendar would be exclusive between these two and not a conflict. Boy, am I getting over that. And I'll leave action to Alice. Thank you. Oh, wait.
Well, I would just like to reiterate that all of the things after the filing deadline can only be done, like all those voter guides, all the posting on the website of the voter guides, everything falls out of the data collection that we do in the software 411. That's why the 411 is important in this. It's really the database that we use to massage in a million ways, but we can't do it until after that filing deadline.
Thank you, Linda.
So the filing deadline for partisan candidates is in March. For partisan candidates, for the primary election is in March. So that August 30 filing deadline would be for any like local ballot measures going to the ballot, or for nonpartisan candidates.
That's for general election candidates. So if they, I don't remember what the primary deadline is for candidates, but if they win, yeah, if they win in the primary, they automatically go forward,
right.
But we do sometimes have additional candidates filing for the general.
Right, but it's not like everybody waits until August 30th. I mean, you'll know who the primary nominees are. There's sometimes a little change, there are a few changes sometimes to that after the primary, but a whole lot.
That's absolutely correct. From a technical point of view, we start fresh with the database.
Two separate things. One is the primary,
Right, I get that.
one is the general.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And they're very different.
Lorraine.
in as much as we're having trouble, getting the candidates to speak to one another at forums, will the policy be when people in our districts say, that they want a forum? Do we print that we invited 2 out of 6 and only, 2 out of 6 agreed to come, and we're not going to hold it because not the majority? How are we going to work that?
This has been a question for a long time in the
Please
league.
repeat the question.
Okay, the question was about when you invite candidates to an issue forum or a candidate debate, and perhaps you have 6 candidates, and then most of them cancel, or humans would get sick, or kids need to, whatever. Stuff happens. And there used to be a very, very strict league open chair policy. And the experience has evolved that sometimes candidates play that. And I don't want to come. I know I'm losing, so I'm not going to give my opponents a chance to hammer me. I'm not coming, and you have to cancel. And that's a little bit different than it has been in the past, and there's good information on that from national and especially from the League of Wisconsin about that, and we do address it in our debate guidelines in the voter service toolbox. I think on a case-by-case basis, that needs to be looked at carefully. It's not automatically canceled. Sometimes a league member can stand in for one of the other candidates if you don't want to cancel your entire event. It's tricky because they're good reasons for canceling. Hey.
Jenny Farlani, Umpqua Valley, but I think what this woman was saying, were you saying that if the league wants to put on a forum and yet the candidates decline, should the league publicize the fact that they tried to do it? Is that what your question was?
That was part of it, yes, thank you.
What do you think about that?
And I also think the difference between a debate and a forum is important.
Yes.
A debate requires at least two people. But a forum, I think you could just invite people, and if they come, they come. If they don't, you still have it.
All right, so a forum isn't a formal question and answer, it's just circulating with the candidates. Is that how you're defining the forum?
Could be, or they could have a few moments to speak, answer questions, but I don't think it's not a debate between the candidates.
And Kelly.
Well, I guess, Kelly Osborne Lane, whether you call it forum or debate, the thing that is really important, at least we found it important in 2016, and we hosted a lot of candidate events, is to be very clear about your guidelines ahead of time, so that when you're confronted with any of these sorts of questions, you already have your protocol in place, and you communicated them to the candidates and their campaigns ahead of time. And what our guideline was, which may or may not work for others, but ours was that we needed 2 or more. And we also did some events where we, so for instance, we did a Secretary of State event in the spring, the primary, where we put Republicans and Democrats on stage together, and also invited the candidate who was affiliated with neither party. I can't remember if they were nonpartisan or whatever. So we put the invitation out. So we had multiple people there. So, but when we had nonpartisan local races, we had multiple candidates. We might have an R&D, depending on the office, but we, for our purposes, we did not want to proceed if only one candidate came. No, it's just.
These are local policies that you have to work out ahead of time.
Right.
And we do have the state and national policies too. I wanted to add that policy, in case it comes up, does not require that you have all candidates. A few years ago, the Portland mayoral race was a really good case in point. I think there were 20-some candidates. And that was taxing for us for voter service. We were just starting to put in video links, and one of the candidates' main issue was police brutality. And there was a videotape on their website that they included a link for with Vote 411 that showed a child, it was a dramatization, showed a child being tased by Portland police. And it was manifestly offensive. And I consulted people at National about whether we should allow this, and we decided not to censor it because it spoke to the validity of that candidacy, actually. But the point I wanted to bring up was, with all of those candidates, we refined part of that debate forum policy that you really don't need to include all candidates. You need to decide who your viable candidates are, and we have a list of criteria to evaluate that with. Because you want to have something that people don't find just too confusing. I personally would not be judgmental about the presidential elections, but with 13 lecterns across the stage, that wouldn't be my first choice. Kelly.
Question on a different topic. So you identify a lot of needs, and those needs are replicated at the local level. So we're all competing for volunteers because we have these races and events happening at every possible level. One of the things I'm wondering is, are we, in addition to recruiting among members, thinking about how we tap potential interns, volunteers from high schools and colleges, as well as community members, especially given kind of the charge for the League of Women Voters to be maybe more open to non-members doing actions with us. So what are we thinking along those lines?
I like that point. When I went through this last night with Mary Sinclair, she was saying, let's remember, and one of my daughters also said, what about Eagle Scouts? What about Girl Scouts? What about student councils? What about, this is my international high school project? These kids are looking for stuff for their college applications. Rebecca is a grad student in Corvallis, and she came forward with some ideas to help. Absolutely, we do want to expand and reach out. Think about who you know, your friends, whose kids maybe have these skills. Absolutely, we are looking to recruit people to do this work and share the joy.
You don't have to be a member to work with the league. Yeah.
And Kathy.
A little history. I joined the league in 1954.
Could you get the mic to her?
And
Sarah, do we have a cord lens?
my first job was in voter service for that election.
That's it.
Is that it?
Push the podium this way. I'm trying, it's too heavy for me.
Do the best you can.
It's ancient history, but when I joined the league in 1954, I was invited to join the voter service committee, which I did, and we were doing research in the ballot measures. We used a mimeograph machine, which probably most of you are not familiar with, but that's what we had. So we typed out all the information on the old Remington typewriters, and it's been a passion of mine ever since. And one of the things that I've done for the Lane County League for a very long time is to organize the Speakers Bureau. And it's very important that you do that. And I urge you to volunteer, because you'll get hooked on voter service. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for your attention. We have sign-up sheets up here. I think we'll circulate them around the tables, and pass the microphone